Hi guys, in this video I'm going to go over a function that will calculate the number of days in a month, and it'll also allow you to exclude weekends or exclude Saturday or Sunday. So it's a VBA function that will allow you to calculate the number of days in a month. Before we do that, go to Excel, VBASQL.com. There's currently over 26 hours of video free. It'll teach you everything you need to know about VBA and about Excel. Put your email in here and you can receive emails when new videos go up. So in a previous video, and the code for this is on the website, the video for this is on the website, we looked at this. We made a function called this, nth day of month, and that allowed us to pass in some parameters. The nth number, so in this case we want the third Sunday in June of 2011. So this 3 represents the third, the 1 represents the Sunday, and the 6 represents the month, and the A2, this cell reference, represents the year. So we can easily find out what's the date of the third Sunday in June, or what's the date of the second Sunday in May, and so on. So if you're not familiar with this and you want to learn about that, how to do that, how to find the fifth Wednesday or the second Wednesday in December for any year, 2006 or something. If you want to know how to do that, this function will do it. Go watch the video online. If you can't find it, email me, but actually I'll show you where it's at. It's down here in the VBA here it is. User defined functions right here, nth day of month. You want to go to lesson 11, that might change lesson 11, but this won't change. User defined functions. So search for that, and this nth day of month is what we saw previously. So okay. So in this video, someone actually wrote in and they said, I want to find the number of days in a month, and we can do that, the number of days in a month. But then they also said, I want to be able to exclude Saturdays or Sundays, or both. I want to exclude both Saturday and Sunday. So we can do that. It's not difficult, and we're going to use some of the techniques that we use for this function up here. So let's go to the Visual Basic Editor, press Alt F11. I'm going to start over again, and I'll call this function. So remember, to write a function, you write function, and I'm going to call this days in month. And then I'm going to have some parameters here, and I'm going to have m as an integer, so that's going to be my month, whatever month I want to select. Y as integer, that'll be my year. And then exclusion, so I have this exclusion as integer. So this is the most important, I think, parameter, this exclusion as integer. That is going to allow us to say, okay, exclude Saturdays or exclude Sundays or exclude both. And then we want to say our function is going to return an integer, because it's going to return, so this function, let me put a comment here, returns number of days in specified month and year. And then exclusion, so this exclusion parameter, in the comments I'm going to write exclusion equals 0, don't exclude any days. So if I pass in 0 as the value of this exclusion parameter, that means I'm not gonna exclude any days. If I pass in 1, that will mean I only exclude Saturday. If I pass in 2, that means I only exclude Sunday. And if I pass in 3, exclude both Saturday, and Sunday. So here I should change this here. So everything's pretty straightforward with these parameters. I'm going to be able to pass in a month as an integer. So if I pass in the number 5, that stands for May because it's the 5th month. I'm going to be able to pass in a year, 2011, 2010, 2006, whatever. Pass in any year as an integer. And then I'm going to pass in another integer between 0 and 3. And if I pass in 0, that means I'm not going to exclude any days. I'm just going to count every single day in the month. If I pass in 1, it means I'm going to count every single day except for Saturdays. If I pass in 2, I count every single day except for Sundays. And if I pass in 3, I count every single day except for Saturday and Sunday. So that's how that exclusion parameter works. Okay, so once we have that, we need to set up some variables here. So I'm going to do dim d as date. And I'm going to do dim count of days as integer. So that's going to be our parameter. That's going to be the hold the counting of the days. And then dim I as integer. And I'm going to set I equal to 1. And what I want to do is whatever month and year I pass in, I want to get the first day of that month and year. So to do that, I can now set this d variable here equal to use the function that VBA gives you called date value, and you have to pass in a string. So let's build a string to make a date. So we do c string m, and then we do n the ampersand, and we do a dash, and then we do c string I, and then we do another dash, another forward slash, and then we do c string year, c string y. So what we have here after we perform this function date value, which passes in the month from what we pass into the function, I need ampersand here. It passes in I, which we set here is I is equal to 1, and then c string y, so we pass in the y from up here, what we pass in. Here we're going to set the first day of the month. So here we're setting the first day of the month. Okay, so let's just check that. Okay, let me close that. So how do I check this? Well, I can go here and I can put a watch on this variable d, and now I could call this function. So I could go into Excel, and I could do equals days in month. Remember, because once you write a function, it's in the VBA, it's in the project library, so you could call it right away. So if I do days in month, and let's say I want June 2011, and I don't want to exclude any days. Well, this is what my function would look like. And if I hit enter, I put a breakpoint here. I put that circle right there. So now I can step through, and if I step through this, debug. Why isn't my debug? Okay, I want this up here. So if I step through, look at the value of D in memory right now is 6/1/2001. Why is it 2001? Oh, because I passed in 2001. Okay, so this makes sense. So now we're able to set the first day of the month and the year given the month and year that we pass in. So we just take M and we take Y, and we construct a date and make it the first day of the month, and that's what we have with D. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, the rest is pretty straightforward in terms of logic and what we want to do. Okay, so we have the first day of the month here. Now we just want to loop and count the days in the month. So to do that, we do something like this. Do until. Here I'm going to write a loop that'll count every day in the month. So I'll do until month Now what I'm going to do here is month, date add, and then I do D 1 comma D does not equal M, and I just do loop, and okay, so let me explain this loop here. So I want to loop and count the days until, we saw that this date was 6/1/2001. We want to loop until we get to 7/1. So how do we do that? Well, we know when to stop when we go to the next month, and to find the next month, you can do that by putting a month function. This is provided from VBA. You can put a month function around this D. So this D right here is this D right here. They're the same thing, and we're using that to say add 1 day to this date. So the first time we do that, it'll be 6/2, and it's going to check, and it's going to say, okay, is the month of 6/2 not equal to the month that we passed in? And it is equal, so it's going to keep looping. Once we add a day and it becomes 7/1, because this date add function here, remember what this does. This is telling you what kind of interval do you want to add to this variable. So here's our variable. It's a date variable. What do you want to add to it? Well, I want to add 1 day, and that's what this is. This is the number of days you want to add, and this represents that you want to add a day. So with this variable, I add 1, and then I add 1 day, and that's what this is. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Basically, you're adding a day to the variable, and then you're putting a month function around it to say, if I add a day, am I in a new month? And if you are, this is going to stop. You're going to stop the loop. Okay, so what do we do in the loop? In the loop, we want to increment I, and we also want to copy this. So let's copy this. We put this in here, and then we want to increment I here because we want to loop through all the days, and that's what this variable here is going to do. First time we go through, we have 6/1, right? We get down here, and we're going to have I is equal to I plus 1. So now we're going to have 2, because I is equal to 1 up here. Now it's going to be equal to 2 the first time through this loop, and that'll create a new date for us. So after this line, the second time through the loop, now we got 6/2, and then if we loop again, I is going to increase to 3, and we create a new date. So we'll have 6/3, and then 6/4, and then 6/5, and so on and so on and so on. And all we have to do next then is do this: count days, count of days is equal to count of days plus 1. So I can now, this is all we need to count the number of days in a month, right? So we could test that. Let's go. Actually, let's test it. So I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to look at a calendar for 2011. So I want to let's test this. Let's go here, and first let me step through this so that you could see what's happening here first. So if I put let's do 6. We want to know the number of days in June 2011. So if I hit enter here, what I see in memory is that at this point it hasn't gone through the loop once yet. At this point, D is equal, the date variable, which is a date it's a date variable, is equal to 6/1. As I step through, I'm going to try to get this a little bit higher. Okay. So as I step through, oh, you still can't see it. That's terrible. As I'm stepping through, maybe you can see it now. Do you see how this value down here is changing? Okay, it's going from 6.2 to 6.3, and that's going to 6.4 and 6.5 and 6.6, and that's changing because of this I is equal to I plus 1. We're using that I in this function here, this date value function. It's changing, and it's going through new days. And if we put a watch on this count of days, all this is doing is incrementing. Our count of days is 6. Notice that the count of days is equal to 6, and we're on 6/6, June 6. So that makes sense. So that's how the loop works. It's just looping through every day and counting every day. And we're looping. Let's keep doing that, and hopefully we could get to the end pretty quick. Actually, I could do this. So if I go down a little bit, maybe you could see that. Notice you see that 21, 23 at the bottom. Okay, we're at June 30th right now. If I increment again, I becomes 31. I could show you that. I'll add a watch. So I is now 31, and now we're going to and D now is 6:30. So now it's going to go to the next loop, and it's going to try to do this statement, adding 1 day to 6:30. So let's see what happens. Right here, it's going to try to add 1 day to this variable D, right here, 6:30, and here's that D. It's trying to add 1 day to it. But it drops out of the loop right there, because when it added a day, the month was July. It was because when you add a day to 6:30, you go into July. It becomes July 1st, and that doesn't equal, the month of July 1st, 2011 is 7, and that doesn't equal what we passed in, which is 6, right? So that's the backbone of this whole function, is the ability to find this loop to keep going until you get to the new month. So let's stop this now, and let me go here and just hit enter, and I could stop this because you understand the loop now, I think. So if I go here, if I hit enter, I get 0. And why do I get 0? Well, you should have seen, hopefully, I get 0 because I haven't assigned anything to the name of my function. Remember, when you do functions, you need to take the name of the function and assign it a value. So I'm going to assign it count of days, because that count of days is keeping track of how many days there are. So now if I run this, I get 30, which is what I want, right? Let me move this over. So I'm going to put count of days. And what I want to do is I'm going to put 1, 2, and I'm going to put 2011. Actually, no, I'm going to drag this down. So now I have months, right? And I have 2011 here. I could copy this, paste it, and now I got to format this to be numbers, or general, actually, whatever, number or general. Okay, so now I could use these as parameters in my function. So instead of having a hard-coded 6 in 2011, I could put 1. It'll take that value, and then I could put 2011 here. And if I just drag this down, now I get the number of days in every month, right? So in January 2011, there was 31 days. So let's go to the calendar and check that. Did I open that? Yes. Okay, so here's our calendar, right? I found it on Google. I assume that it's accurate. January here, it has 31 days. February has 28. So let's check. 31, 28. 31, 28. And then we have March and February, or March and April, have 31 and 30s. So let's check that. March has 31, April has 30. Let's check May and June, and then we'll stop. May has 31 and June has 30. So May here has 31, yep, and June has 30. So we could go on and check all the rest of them, but I know that it's correct, and you could confirm that by writing the function. And notice here exclusion equals 0, right? So now we want to do a couple more things, right? We want to do exclusion equal to 1 and exclusion equal to 2 and exclusion equal to 3. That's what we want to do. Let me make this a little bigger and format this. Wrap. Okay. So let me just get this in a format so we can see. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, so here's our function, right? We just did the case where exclusion, our exclusion parameter, is equal to 0. Now we want to do exclusion equal to 1. So this excludes Saturdays here. And I'll put no Saturdays. And then I'll put no Sundays. And then this is no Sat and no Sundays. So we have to write another part of our function to do this, to do these things. So how do we do that? Well, it's not too difficult. We're going to use something called a select case statement. So we could do an if statement, and we could say if exclusion is equal to 0, then do this, or if, and then else if exclusion equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also do this. You could do select case, and then you could do exclusion, and then you do case 0. So what does this do, this select case? Basically, it looks at a variable. It says, what variable do you want to look at? Well, I want to look at exclusion, because that's the variable that we pass in, and it could vary, right? Exclusion could be these things, 0, 1, 2, or 3. And we want to do things if it's 0, and then we want to do other things if it's 1, and do other things if it's 2, and so on and so on. So this is a real easy way to do that. You do the syntax of this is you do select case, and then you do the variable you want to look at, and then you do case 0. So case 0 says that the variable will take the value 0. And below that, you just write what you want to do if the value exclusion takes on the value 0. So if exclusion is equal to 0, then you do this. And then you could keep going. You could do case 1, and then you could do case 2. And we have one more case, case 3. And at the last case, you just write case else. And then at the very end, you write end select. So notice you're selecting something up here, you're ending your selection down here, you do end select down there, and in between you write what are the cases, what are the different cases of this variable. Well, there's a case where it could be 0, and a case where it could be 1, a case where it could be 2, and we have to write our code to do that. So let's do that. So for case 1, remember we're excluding Saturdays, and case 2 exclude Sundays, and case 3, or whatever case else is, if you put anything other than that, you're going to exclude both Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so now we just have to modify this loop to do these things, and let's see how we do that. So first thing I'm going to do is just copy this loop, because I think I like it. It counts the number of days in a month. All we want to do with this loop now is just, instead of counting every day, we want to put an if statement around it and go if weekday D and then VB Sunday. So remember what this does. this function right here returns a number between 1 and 7. So you pass in a date variable here, this D, you pass in D, which is a date variable, and if you put this function around it, it'll return a number 1 through 7 that tells you what number of the day of the week it is. So, and this parameter tells you when do you begin counting at 1. So if you put in VB Sunday, Sunday is going to be equal to 1, Monday is equal to 2, Tuesday is equal to 3, Thursday is equal to 4, Friday is equal to 5, Saturday is equal to 6. So we want to exclude, if we want to exclude Saturdays, we want to exclude 6. So we do excluding, or no, I'm sorry. We want to exclude 7 because Saturday is 7. Monday's 2, Tuesday's 3, Wednesday's 4, Thursday's 5, Saturday is 6, and Thursday's 5, Friday is 6. Sorry about that. So Saturday is 7. We want to exclude that. So I'm doing that right here. I'm saying if the weekday is anything but 7, and 7 is the value returned from this function weekday. Well, it could be the value returned from that function weekday, and when it is, I don't want to count these days. So that's what this is doing. So then I do then. If it's not Saturday, then you can count the days, and then I just end. And I do the same thing down here. I just copy this statement, and I go down, and I want to exclude Sundays. So now Sunday, because of VB Sunday, because of that parameter, means Sunday is going to be numbered 1. So I want to exclude any day that's numbered 1, and I do that here. And then for the last one, for the final case statement, I just copy this, and when I paste it in, I just do it doesn't equal to 1 and it doesn't equal to 7. So now I'm excluding Sunday here. Right here I exclude Sunday. I'm not counting Sundays. I got to do the same thing. Don't count Saturday either. Okay? And then at the end, it's already done. We did the end select and then count of days. So notice what happens. The person calls this function with this exclusion parameter, and it's going to take on a value between 0 and 1, 2, and 3. You have to tell the person that what it does. But once they know that, they'll pass in a value between 0, 1, 2, or 3. 0, and then one of 4 loops are going to take place, right? If they pass in 0, this loop is going to happen. What happens if they don't pass in 0? Well, then this loop is not going to run. It's never going to hit here because this select case is only going to execute one of these statements. Case 0 or case 1 or case 2 or 3 or whatever. It's only going to execute one of them. So that's why when you call this function, only one of these loops is going to be run. Okay, and that's the good thing about this case select case is that only one of them is going to run. So right away, exclusion, it'll know, is it 0, and it'll jump to here. If it's 1, it jumps to here. If it's 2, it jumps to this loop here, and it starts doing that. Okay, so now let's test our function. And notice the only real changes we made is this if statement that says if the weekday is something, then don't count. Okay, which is what the person wanted when they emailed in. So now let's do this. All I got to do here, let me just put a $sign here and here. Oops. Let me break this. Okay, so I'm getting an error here, and let's try to figure it out. So it says there's a loop without a do. Maybe I missed something here. So I have a do and a loop here. I have a do until and a loop here. And I have a do until and loop there, and a do until and a loop there. So bear with me for a second. I'm just trying to debug this. Okay, so what we can do is we could take some of this out and try to put it back in real quick. So, I don't want to waste too much of your time, and this might be the easiest way to debug this. What I did is I cut it. I'm going to go to Notepad and just paste it in, and then I'm going to try to run it and see what happens. So if I run this now, I get 31. Okay, cool. So that loop worked. Now let's do this. Let's cut this one and bring it back in and see if this works. Okay, so here if I move this over, compile error, loop without do. Why are you saying that? Okay, so let me go back up here. Select case. Am I ending the select here? Yes, I end the select, and then I end the function. Let me stop this here. Loop without do. Why are you doing that? This is weird. Okay, so let me try something else here. I'll put this back. I'm gonna cut this out. Put it over here. And let me just put a message box to see what's going on here. Okay, so if I try it, what's it gonna say? Okay, so you return 31. I drag this down. Okay, so there's my message box. Do you see that? So it is going to I gotta go through all of these things. Okay, so when I do that, when I put in 1 as the exclusion, what happens is, oops, here we go. When I put in 1 as the exclusion, it goes down here. So it's getting down here. So now we have to figure out what doesn't it like about this loop statement what are we doing wrong here? I'm just doing a do until. So I'm going to comment out the test, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to hit enter again. Let me put the test back in and see. I also put a breakpoint and see what this does. So it won't let me compile that. Why not? Can you? Wondering if it's a case else issue. No, it's not. Do until. I just copied that. Let's see. And select count of days equal to days in month. Loop without do. Why are you doing that? I actually have the code right in front of me, you know, that printed it out, and it looks exactly the same. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of this. Without do, but you have a do. Yeah, there's a do right there. So you know what I'll do? I should have done this a long time ago. I'll take this out of here. Put it back over here. Actually, it's already over there. I'll just take this do loop and see what it says. Is something going wrong here? What does it care about these loops for? I mean, they seem correct to me. So B5, B1, 1. Okay. You're giving me 31. Okay, so we're getting closer. I apologize, that was like 10 minutes, but I should have done that a long time ago. I should have just replaced the loop here with the loop here. I should have just taken the loop that worked and put it down there. And let me do that for these other ones just to make sure. So this is case 2 and this is case else. So now I can just drag this over and we should see these things case without select case. Oh yeah, this one. I don't want this anymore. So I should have just done that earlier. I apologize for that, but it's good practice. You get to see real live debugging. You're not going to see that too much on YouTube, by the way, real live debugging. Okay, so what we have now is we have a loop that we tested, and I just pasted it, that loop, under the case 1, the case 2, and the case else. Okay, so now we have to do some hard work, I guess. The computer doesn't like something to do with the if statement. So let's try to add the if statement and see why is that, here's our end if, here's our if, and we want weekday. We want weekday D, comma VB Sunday. We don't want that to equal 7. Okay, so all we did was add an if statement. Now, the loops, all of them worked, and the case 1 worked, so now let's see if it works. Okay, so guys, I have no idea. If you guys know what the problem was, please email me, because I'm confused. I thought it was just, all we did was change an if statement. Maybe I didn't put the then there. Did I have the then there? Whatever it was, maybe you saw that early on. Maybe I didn't have the then there, or maybe I didn't have the end if or something. But maybe, who knows? But the point is, it's working now. So let me just take this real quick and copy it down here, like we did before. It doesn't equal 1 to exclude Sundays, and then again down here. So I apologize for that, but honestly, this is sort of real-time coding. I'm not looking at the sheet. I have it somewhere printed off over here, but I'm not looking at it. So stuff like that happens. Let's see. Does this look right? No, this doesn't look right. Because look what's going on. I know that this doesn't look right, because if I exclude Saturdays and exclude Sundays, well, that looks sort of okay, because maybe there's the same amount of Saturdays and Sundays. But this doesn't look right for sure, because I know if I exclude both of them, that should be a lower number. So this case else. Oh, maybe I'm also, yeah, okay. So I need to change this to 2 here. So that will exclude the Sundays, and this one will exclude. Okay, now we're looking good. This is working. It was worth the wait, even if you don't believe it. It was worth the wait. We have something that works here. This function, you pass in a year, or you pass in a month here. The month I pass in is 1. The year I pass in is 2011, right there, B5. And the 0 parameter says count all the days in the month. Same thing here. You pass in a month, a year. The 1 parameter says don't count Saturdays. The 2 parameter says don't count Sundays. And the 3 parameter says, if you pass in 3 for this last parameter, it says don't include Saturdays or Sundays. Okay? So let's check that. We can check that pretty easily. So let's pick a random month, year. Let's go to May 2011 and see what this calendar is showing us. Let me minimize that. Go up here. May 2011. There's 31 days. Okay. If I exclude Saturdays, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I should exclude 4. 31 minus 4 is 26. So if I go here, oh no, sorry, stupid math. Sorry, that error really threw me off. So 31 minus 4 is actually 27, and that's what we have here. There's 31 days in May 2011, but if we subtract the 4 Saturdays, we have 27 days. Similarly, if I subtract the 5 Sundays, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, I see that if I exclude Sundays using this 2 passing in 2, I exclude Sundays, I get 22 or 26. 31 minus 5 is 26. And finally, if I pass in 3, it says exclude both Saturday and Sunday. So if I go to the calendar, there's 4 Saturdays here, there's 5 Sundays here. So 31 minus 9 is going to give you 22. And we should see 22 right there. And indeed, 31 minus 22 is correct. Let's check another one real quick that has a different, let's check this one. So December 2011, it's saying if you exclude Saturdays and Sundays, there should be 22 days. So let's go there. It says there's 31 days in the month, and there should be 9 Saturdays and Sundays because 31, the difference between 31 and 22 is 9. So let's go there. Let's look at December 2011 right here. There are 5 Saturdays and 4 Sundays and 31 days in the whole month. So 31 minus those 9 Saturdays and Sundays is exactly what we have here. And you saw that there were 5 Sundays, so 31 minus 5, or there were 4 Sundays, I'm sorry, and 31 minus 5, if you go here, we're subtracting these 4 Sundays. If you subtract that, you should see 27 here, and we see 27, and there were 5 Saturdays. And if you subtract 31 minus 5, you get 26. So we have a function now that that does exactly what we want. The person emailed in. He went to Excel VBA SQL. He was watching, and he emailed in. He said, can you make a function that will count all the days of the month and allow you to exclude Saturdays or Sundays or both of them? And certainly you can. You can do that. Let's take a look at that function again, and then I'll end the video because it kind of went long with that debugging thing. But I think that debugging stuff is good. Even though we didn't figure it out, it gets you thinking. And number two, you saw how I did it. You saw how I figured it out. I should have just copied this do loop, the one that worked, and I should have replaced it and said, okay, I know this works because we tested it, so let me paste it there. It took me a while to do that, but eventually you do it. So you see how to do it, right? I also cut things out of here, put it in a notepad here, and tested it by adding it one by one. And when that didn't work, then I went to the okay, I'll do the one that works and paste it. I should have done it the other way first. I should have done the one that works in there first. But anyways, regardless, you saw how that. I think that's very useful to see the debugging stuff. Okay, so let me summarize the video in a couple minutes, and then I'll end this thing. So we made a function, days in a month. You could pass in a month as an integer, a year as an integer. So the month is between 1 and 12. The year is a 4-digit year. Exclusion is a integer between 0 and 3. If you pass in 0, you count all the days. If you pass in 1, you exclude the Saturdays. 2, you exclude the Sundays. And 3, you exclude both Saturdays and Sundays. And what are the main points of the video? This select case statement. The select case statement works great. Remember what it does. You look at a variable, you select a variable, basically. You say select case and the name of the variable, and then you have a bunch of cases, like case, and then whatever that variable can be. In this case, our variable can be 0, 1, 2, or 3, so we did case 0, and below that you write whatever your logic is. And then case 1, you write different logic, and case 2, and at the very end you have a case else. So this is the last thing, and you write what you want it to do, and at the very end you do end select. And then within those loops, we saw that to find out when do we hit the new month, you put a month function around the date variable, but you add 1 day to it, and you test. If I add 1 day, is it going to be a new month? And that's what this line does. It says if I add 1 day to that variable D, will it bring me into a new month? And if it is, then I want to stop. And we saw that looping through. The other thing we use is this weekday function. So the weekday function, you pass in a date variable, and you assign it one of these VB Sundays or VB Monday parameters, and that'll tell you is this date variable a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And you use that information to say if it is a Sunday or a Saturday, then do not count that as a day. And then finally, you assign the count of days. Notice we have this count of days variable in each one of our loops, and at the very end we know that only one loop is going to be called, and let's say this loop is called, and this count of days is going to hold the number of days in that month, and you assign that to the name of the function. Remember, you have to do that. So the function name up at the very top is days in the month, and you want to assign something to it. You have to do that in VBA. And we also saw that our function ties out to actual real-world calendars, and it works. So the data here, if you exclude a Saturday or a Sunday or both days, it ties out to the calendars, so it works. So that's all I'm gonna say about this video. Again, I apologize for the debugging, but at the same time, I think if you're gonna become a programmer, a VBA programmer, to the point where you are proficient, you need to be able to think like that to figure it out, so you don't just, oh, I have an error, I have no idea what it means, I'm going to stop, or I'm going to go ask someone or pay someone. You want to be able to figure it out, and they're really not hard. If it ever gets to the point where like I got, I mean, I was there, I couldn't figure that out. What you want to do is basically cut it and put it in Notepad or something and just rebuild it really slowly. And that's basically what we did. We started from scratch again, and we eventually took the loop that worked and we applied it to the other case statements. So I apologize for that debugging, and I hope you're still there and listening. But it's super useful to see that, because if you didn't see that, if you didn't see how I figured it out, maybe you would just turn it off and go, okay, when that happens to me, I'm just going to turn it off. I'm just going to walk away. I'm just going to quit. So you saw that debugging is it's tricky, but you can figure it out by just cutting it out and starting over, doing it slowly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take that code, and actually this workbook that you see here with all the formulas in it, I'm going to put it on excelvbasequel.com here, and I'll put it under the user-defined functions area. And I'm going to put it there so you can go to the website, excelvbasequel.com. You can download that workbook if you want, or you can just watch the video. You could watch also 26, almost 27 hours of other videos, so that your Excel skills and your VBA skills are where they need to be. Put your email in here, and I'll send you an email when videos go up. So until the next video, contact me if you have any questions through the website here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.